So, gentlemen, good evening. Today, we are here with a special episode of Security Bangladesh. This is an online magazine, and I like to welcome our two distinguished guests today. One is Mr. Vikram Jit Singh from India. He is a defense analyst on basically TB. He is the analyst of TB on defense and strategic issues. He covered many defense issues like Kargil War. He's a senior journalist himself. He writes on golf and its wildlife. Welcome, Mr. Jit.
Thank you very much, Major Mahmood. It's a pleasure to be with you and General Rashid.
Next, we have the leading security and strategic analyst of Bangladesh. He's none other than Major General Abdur Rahsid. Sir, welcome to you also.
Thank you very much. We are glad to be in your program and talking on the issue.
Okay, so as you see in the screen that we will discuss today, sir, basically Indo-China deadly clash at Ladakh that happened recently, and where do you stand? By that we mean where do Bangladesh stands? So basically that issue is now at standoff stage. Still we'll discuss, and we like to include also little bit of Lipulek issue, which is a tri-junction at Nepal, India, and China.
Right.
So to start that, sir, I like to show our audience 2 or 3 maps so that they are oriented with our discussion to understand better where we will be discussing. To start, I like to show this map. This is a map of tri-junction of India, China, and Pakistan. You can see, and then the place Ladakh is here. It is marked, and then Nepal is here, Bhutan is here, and below that you can see in the next map Bangladesh. This is the location of Bangladesh. So this is Ladakh. This is Lipulek at the north of Nepal, west of Nepal, and then it's a tri-junction for China, Nepal, and India. You can see in the map, and then Ladakh you can see also here, and the location of Bangladesh is down below here, and Arunachal Pradesh is here. So after that we have another map which shows little border of Gulan Valley, rather, where the incident Ladakh, you see the Ladakh is located within the Gulan Valley, which is very much inside Jammu and Kashmir. So there is a road that will be coming in the discussion that is called Gulhan, Sayak and Darbak, and Daulat Oldi is airport, airbase is just located here, if you can see. So this is another picture which shows the recent construction of China within their territory, very much in the disputed territory, and beside river, Ladakh River. So these are the few pictures, and then we just to show you a short clip taken from a.
It's been over 2 weeks since the bloody Galwan clash and 2 months since India's biggest recent military standoff began. Ladakh, since then, has witnessed a massive, unrelenting increase in deployments in forward areas. On Friday came Prime Minister Modi's strongest ever message to China from Leh Ladakh. And now, India's air power muscle on full unapologetic display. You're looking at frontline fighter jets in the combat zone. Making the nation's intent clear, India won't back down.
So you are back. That was a clip taken from India Today TV channel, India's renowned TV channel. So thank you very much, that TV channel. Sir, I like to start, and I like to start with Mr. Vikram Jit Singh from India. Mr. Vikram Jit Singh, can you hear me, please?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I know you personally that you are a renowned TV analyst you have been discussing in many TV channels on strategic issues. And also you covered yourself the Kargil War in 99. To start the discussion, can you tell us where is that? What is the situation now after the standoff, and without any expenditure of any single bullet? Why that happened? How that happened? And was that a start of a proxy war? What was that, and what is the situation now there in Ladakh?
The situation in Ladakh as of now is that the Chinese are refusing to disengage from the Pangong Lake, the depth sank plains, which are opposite the Daulat Beg Oldi airfield in in northeastern Ladakh, and also at the area Gogra, which is south of Pangong Lake. They have also not disengaged. Now, disengagement means that the troops are very close to each other and they can be friction. Beyond that is a very heavy Chinese mobilization of at least two motorized and mechanized divisions in the rear areas, which has been matched by India also putting in two extra divisions into Ladakh, infantry and mountain divisions, and another armored brigade, plus combat support elements. So now disengagement, which was the first phase of diffusing the tensions, has got stalled. And after disengagement, had it succeeded, like the troops withdraw from the friction points, we would have gone in for de-escalation, de-induction, and demobilization of the major buildup on both sides. So as of now, it's a pretty difficult situation where the talks have stalled. In fact, today was the fifth round of talk between, at the level of the corps commanders, the 14 corps commander from India and the, the head of the Major General from the South Xinjiang military district from China. So the Chinese are not going back. They're not disengaging. And so they are kind of area denial of territory, which we used to patrol, India used to patrol in the prior to May 2020. Now, coming to your second question of why the clash took place at Galwan on the night of June 15, we had an agreement between the corps commanders on June 6th that both sides will disengage from the Galwan Valley. But unfortunately, when our troops, led by the commanding officer of 16 Bihar, went to the friction point, they found that the Chinese were not withdrawing. They had built a tent and they had an observation post. And when they requested them to withdraw, it turned into an ambush. The Chinese had brought in some special forces and they ambushed the Indian troops, and it led to a very bloody clash on the night of June 15. And can you imagine, not a bullet was fired. They, the Chinese used batons with nails in them, with barbed wires wrapped around rods. They threw big boulders on our troops. Some of our troops fell into the river. The Chinese also suffered quite a few casualties. So it's been quite paradoxical that, two modern, very strong armies were fighting with rods and boulders on the night of June 15th.
Okay, just thank you very much for that describing that horrible situation there, tragic situation rather. Very, unheard in the history of war, undeclared, unsudden, just sudden incident that was. So I'll stand by, please. I like to bring General Rahsid here. Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Oh, sure.
Okay, sir. Basically, you heard the incident, and I'm sure you have discussed in so many places the same issue. Beside the incident, another incident also is going on. Is a standoff going on at Lipulek, as I mentioned, in Nepal, China, India border, and also here in Ladakh. So there is a two standoff going on simultaneously. Just recently today, maybe Hindustan Times covered that story of Lipulek. So I want to hear from you. Can you tell our audience that what will be the effect in Southeast Asia? From these two incidents, how will be affected? Later, though, you will be covering Bangladesh particularly. But now, tell me something about the Southeast scenario of Southeast Asia for these two incidents.
Thank you very much. We are more concerned about the South Asia and Galwan Valley. It was a very unknown valley. I never heard the name till the time that 15 June incidents came up. Now, question is that initiation of the events where certainly I would identify that China has taken the initiative to cross the LAC and now bungling all these things. They had the strategic interest on this road that you mentioned, the Darbuk Daulat Beg only. So I'm not going into that. Question is that from Galwan Valley, the incident which took place and India facing China, and ultimately you see that Pakistan came in, and there is a probability of the two-front war which will be faced by India, that we are always listening to that. And India is also preparing. All the sides are preparing very heavily for a future conflict. So that is the question of South Asia. That the three powers that we see are facing each other are of nuclear powers. So three nuclear powers facing, and we know that whether there will not be a nuclear weapon used, may not be. But question is that if one side loses tremendously, he will have no option other than using that power. So that is the main concern. Now we see that from the Galwan event, we see a new geopolitical polarization in the world. So world is polarizing differently. Certainly, I would say that Indian diplomacy were pretty successful outside the world. So polarization gone somewhat in India's favor. So we see that Quad force, which is US, India, Japan, and Australia, they are also coming into action. Now, at the same time, we see the South China Sea, the muscle flexing by the China has annoyed all the neighbors. Now, if I look at China's current stance, that has annoyed at least 20 countries, that they are having some sort of a border, either land or water, anything, some conflict. So certainly it is a kind of an isolation that they are facing. Now, in the face of this isolation, so you know that COVID-19 attack was there, and the world has lost more than 5 lakhs people has given their life. It's a kind of a genocide, I mean. That initiated from China, so China is under tremendous pressure. And to release this pressure, he is trying to utilize the nation of the South Asia, like all the nations other than India, Pakistan. So they are trying to a kind of a competition. Who can win over whom? So as a whole, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, these are the countries which are the pawn of the game. So they both sides are trying to keep them in favor. So whether they will stay in favor or go against or not, so I see there is a lot of historical reason issues are there. So we will talk on the issue, but question is that if the three power which has got a nuclear in hand get involved, so certainly many predict that there may be a world war taking initiation from this land. So American, we see that carrier groups are already being displayed in and around Indian Ocean and the South China Sea. So if there is a conflict in Galwan Valley or the Ladakh or Lipu Lake areas, doesn't matter. The question is that, and at the same time, we'll see a kind of a naval blockade to China imposed by India and other neighboring nations, as well as the United States, Australia, Japan together. So automatically, Chinese the main supply route for their fuel, energy, and also their business export will be affected. So automatically, in that case, it will be very untenable for the China to bear with that situation. So it is not a one-front war just facing India versus China. So I am thinking about, whole issues are involving all the nations around, in and around, and again the world power. So automatically, the way we see the entanglement of those world power and the nations, South Asian nations, so certainly will be affected one way or the other. So that is a big question. It's a question of a survival question. Nobody wants to see the nuclear radiations and the others. If not a direct, of course, indirect effect will be there on the all surrounding nations as well as the world communities. That's my feeling.
Mr. Vikram Singh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, so I was missing my audio maybe. General Rahsid sir, can you just stand by? I'm coming back to you with Bangladesh issues next. Now, Mr. Vikram Jit Singh, before I go to the next issue, I think I can show the map again. This is the map where we are discussing Ladakh and Lipulek and this. I think you can see the map.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. And you are oriented, so that's why it is easy for you to, relate. the method. So let me point out some points from the media of China that I was coming across and doing some research, that they claim that India was doing some reconstruction work of Dolat Air Base, which was in fact abandoned in 1962. After that, and this is with the intention to allow US aircraft like C-1303 landing. And again, they had been blaming that construction of Tabuk, Shayak and Dolutpulli road, though it is inside Indian territory, but they see that a threat to their security. And then again, Indians media, I found that they are blaming, no, it is not true. We are doing our construction inside our territory, and rather China is constructing a long time for a long time. They are almost finished the Xinjiang China highway, and aim of that is to use the Tarakum Kuram Pass, that is the three country tri-junction point between Pakistan, India and China. So what could be the other regions? I want to go to other regions that you covered in the first question, that regions that you said in short, but now I want to know other regions, the other socio-economic strategic issues that brought into this factor.
Well, you see, no geopolitical or geostrategic contingency of such a magnitude, which has arisen between India and China and Ladakh, arises primarily because of one factor. Such a situation has arisen because of a congruence or multiple factors. I do believe that the Chinese argument that India was making a road and an airfield is a flimsy argument, because India's road has been made for the last 18 years. We have been landing US aircraft on Daulat Beg Oldi for the last decade at least. So it is not just that. I think China's real motive is with regard to their worries over the CPEC, or the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which goes through Gilgit-Baltistan, through POK, and onto the Gwadar port. Now, the Modi government has been making very aggressive statements that they will take back POK. They have been opposing the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor in world forums very strongly. And, in Parliament last year, after the abrogation of Article 370, the Indian Home Minister said that both Aksai Chin, which is under Chinese occupation in Ladakh, and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, India will take back. Now, this is the real concern of China, because the CPEC is their alternative to the Malacca dilemma. As General Rashid pointed out, that if there is a quad naval blockade at the Malacca and the Sunda Straits, then China's 80% of the energy transportation from Europe, from West Asia, from Africa get blocked. So they made a corridor through the Gwadar port. And now you look at China, they want oil.
And that corridor, sorry to interfere, that corridor's aim is to connect that pass with Pakistan?
No, you see, the corridor goes to the Khunjerab Pass.
Khunjerab Pass,
now,
okay.
Chinese military maneuvers in Ladakh, in eastern Ladakh, against India are meant to move forward and, come to an operationally advantageous situation where they can lend depth, firstly, to their G219 road between Tibet and Xinjiang, which is, they want to give depth to it. Secondly, they can launch an offensive towards the Karakoram and cut off Daulat Beg Oldi from India, the subsector north. Yeah. And then that puts the Siachen Glacier, the Saltoro Ridge, under threat, because on Siachen, the north of Siachen is the Shaksgam Valley, which China has occupied. To the west of Siachen is Gilgit-Baltistan, where the Pakistani army is sitting. So the Chinese are working at different levels of geopolitics, geostrategy, and military maneuver. So, in my mind, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to preempt an Indian military threat to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir by opening two fronts. So they're dividing the Indian military response. You see, now the Indian Army and the Air Force has to divide its assets between the possibility of a two-front collusive war.
Yeah.
And Eastern Ladakh, where the Chinese are now maneuvering, is where a collusive two-front war actually arises because of, Pakistan and China almost meet there, because Siachen is the only, wedge between them. So I think, and the second important thing, if you look at the geopolitical situation, is that China believes that India is in a very strong alliance with the US to contain China by trying to block them at the CPEC and by forming an alliance in the seas under the Quadrilateral Naval Alliance. You see, India has upgraded the Quad to a ministerial level last year. It's at a ministerial level. So, if China can be contained by a coalition led by the US, then there is a threat of China breaking up. You see, what did the US do to the Soviet Union or the USSR? They contained the USSR, and the USSR imploded, it broke up. So China is very, very insecure about being contained. So if you contain them at Malacca, if you sabotage their CPEC corridor, then China is in trouble.
True. Okay, I'll come back. Just stand by, please. Let me bring General Rashid again. Sir, can you hear me, sir?
No, sure.
Okay. Sir, basically, he was covering some other regions in the discussion. We are entering into the discussion slowly. So, I think, sir, there's a noise in your audio.
In my audio?
Now it is okay. Okay. Can you hear me clearly, sir?
Oh, yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, he was telling something, but here is a point missing, that China, especially, was facing some alliance. You said, he also said, like Japan, Australia, Vietnam, somebody saying Hong Kong is also there, USA. They already formed some sort of alliance to block aggression of Chinese business, as you said, the using of that sea road. So what else India could do? I mean, why India failed to identify such sudden activity or aggression from aggressive behavior from China? Why they did fail? And again, what they should do now? Should they also go for join that alliance and invite those people around them?
I think first the term that you have used, that India has failed, but I disagree with that. India has not failed to understand the threat. Now, if I compare with 1962 and now, certainly India is well prepared. So automatically there is no question of failing. Now, the problem is China wants to exert its pressure all over the world, particularly the Asian nation. Now, if China wants to become an Asian power, the lone power, automatically here we see that India can contest that. So automatically we can see that contest of the power or the exaggeration of expansion of the business interest and other interests, so that we see colliding. And in the context, it has coincided with the global anti-China's move. So automatically China has already made a fear to Japan by taking their East China Sea island, I think Senkaku, and Australia is also in a fear that China's expansion would endanger them also. So that brings them all together, the Indo-Pacific nations together. Now about the South China Sea, you have said that his occupation on China's South China Sea's claim has endangered the sovereignty or the territorial and the other easy of the littoral nations like Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and all, Vietnam, and everything. So automatically China is not ready to accept the international convention. So that is the thing. So one has to obey. If you would like to live in peace, you have to accept. You have to accept the existence of the others as well. So automatically, if you create a problem for the other sovereignty or others' freedom, So automatically everybody will be against China. So China is somewhat, his diplomacy has somewhat brought the total situation in this. Now India has got ace posture, so he knew that, the Indian chief of army staff has said that China is the ultimate enemy of the India. So automatically now we see the preparation, military preparation. If you contest each other militarily, so certainly Indian military has also accumulating a lot of firepower and the technology to defeat China as well as Pakistan together. So automatically in the future, we also see China, as Jit has mentioned, the geopolitically China is endangering their integrity. So there is a policy. If he gets involved with this India fight with India, so automatically geopolitically that there is a Tibet could be declaring its own independence, and maybe world will give a recognition. So similar danger also is there in Hong Kong and also the Taipei. So automatically China, you see the raising of the three independent country around China, and world getting a world recognition will cause a tremendous integrity problem of the China, or one China policy. Now you can say that one China policy, it was somewhat world had accepted at some time. Now they're contesting a number of times and protecting Taiwan, But India was also silent in the Nehru's period about the one China policy. He did not raise a very big question. So automatically now the things are moving. You can say, and everybody understand this mechanism. China also understand the mechanism. So China is not in a good shape. Now the future economy. China was coming up with the economy, and they had a lot of reserves and foreign currency. They were giving money to the different countries, ready to give, and also their BRI, means Belt and Road Initiative. So Belt and Road Initiative, with this is their expansionism mechanics. Now, if you look at the history of China, now I'm going to say China has a historical disadvantages. In the history of China, they never had a colony to dominate the world. This is one I see. Second, I see China is a country which has been occupied by the other powers, but China could not occupy the other powers nowhere in the world. So automatically, it has no historical background of domination. You have expansionism, but you got to have the experience and bear the impact of the expansionism. But their president, Xi Jinping, he made this policy. Why? For his own sake, own political power. So I see also there is an internal disturbance challenging the Xi Jinping's power and capacity. Now after Galwan event and also that COVID impact all over the world, China thought that they will be winner. But I see that they could not win the world. Rather, world economy has collapsed. Equally, it has affected the Chinese economy. So they are in the negative growth, as well as they could not project their future growth, what will be there in the next plan. So automatically, Chinese people are now suffering. So people of China was emerging. It was the emerging nation, and now they are suffering again and going back to the below poverty line. So automatically they are not ready to accept the situation. They are looking for something, a better situation, better economy, which Xi Jinping ultimately, with his calculation or his could not make a very good, nice geopolitical event or the mechanism for which China would go further and economically will be benefited. Now we see in every country, like Western Europe has rejected, they are trying to block their Huawei companies contracts and others. So automatically, so this has caused the problem. Now, if they access to their Africa or the market, you see, India also they lost a big market to India. It was a huge, almost like $1 trillion business in a year. So all this thing makes China in trouble. To get it out, now one thing they have, that they must have a very military win over to some nations and declare the domination. That is one option. Another one is they're making a compromise and for peaceful existence of the other nation. So they have to accept either one.
Okay. So I'll come back. Just stand by, please. Now, let me bring again Mr. Vikram Jit Singh. Mr. Vikram Jit Singh, as I was telling, it's not a failure. Rather, I find some challenges in India's part. Now then, in Nepal case, in Lipulet, we find India is they're getting all the information. Like now, media today I saw myself. Media is writing. Media is exposing that in Lipulet there is a 1 battalion concentration of Chinese is going on, and again in Arunachal the heavy concentration is going on. Then why not this our intelligence? I mean, your Indian intelligence or some authority could not identify those concentration in Ladakh for a long time, and all on a sudden they caused a heavy casualty to India and both sides. To India 20, somebody says China 40. So what may be the case? But 20 soldiers were killed. That is the fact. So why it was so? I mean, why was our shortcomings, and what will be the effect? As General Rashid said, from your point of view, I want to know what will be the effect on South Asia.
But there's been a bit of a betrayal by the Chinese army, because in December last year, the Indian Army and the PLA ground forces, they had a joint exercise, hand-to-hand exercise. So that was a confidence building measure. In January of 2020, means this year, the Northern Army commander of the Indian Army, Lieutenant General Ranbir Singh, he was the army commander at that time. He went to China on an official visit, and he went to even Chengdu, which is the headquarters of the Western Theater Command of the PLA, and where he met the Western Theater commander, General Zhang Zoi, I think. So, there was a lot of confidence building measures. So, in April, we did get intelligence that there has been a very heavy movement of Chinese troops towards the LSE. And, they are exercising. Now, the Chinese do their exercises every early spring and summer. So we did not read the Chinese exercises as being threatening. So what the Chinese did was that they built up a lot of troops next to the line of actual control. And before we realized what was happening, they moved a part of the troops across the LC and occupied it. And then what happened when our patrols went on their normal, routes, it's called patrol point 14, 15, 17, the Chinese stopped the patrols. And once our patrols couldn't go to their endpoints, it became what was called area denial. Now, once the Chinese did area denial in Pangong, in Depsang, in the Galwan River Valley, in Gogra, in Hot Springs, they started to consolidate on that territory. They started building permanent structures, like bunkers and prefabricated huts have been put there.
Mr. Jit, here I like to add, you had enough facility there in Dolot base, air base, radar and so far I know surveillance devices. I saw it in the media. Now, as you are showing, you are bringing a lot of air power there, concentrating there, and you have, aided your surveillance, also air surveillance there. But what was that air surveillance did not work in those cases? In that cases, did it work?
You see, I think the main question is that when the Chinese built up so heavily in April and May, you see, the first clash took place at Pangong Lake on May 5th and 6th, where about 70 of our soldiers and the commanding officer of the 11 Mahar were wounded. Now, you see, that is where I think the question of assessment comes in. You have intelligence, but you have not assessed it properly. So the Chinese took us by surprise. It happened in Kargil in 1999 also. In Kargil, they came across Kargil, Batalik, Mashko, huge strength. So I think again we had a problem of assessment. We knew of Chinese exercises, but we did not assess that the Chinese.
But there is my point lies, Mr. Vikram Singh. Getting you, I'm getting my knowledge refreshed, or what should I say, a little vocal, because I always talk with General Rashid, but I get chance often to talk to him if I want, but I cannot if I want even to talk to you. I want to rather know. I find everywhere, like intelligence organization of India is very powerful. They have very, in the neighboring countries, they have existence, they have very radar, they have surveillance. But in case of your national intelligence, like RAW or other NSI, I find that both do they lack in their territory what is happening, what might happening, or they're busy outside more for other business intelligence, like in Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar. They're rather more busy about intelligence on business intelligence instead of combat intelligence.
You see, I think the first issue is that there is a multiplicity of intelligence agencies in India. And, once there is a multiplicity, because there's so many of them, there's RAW, there is NTRO, there is IB, there is Army Intelligence, there's a Defence Intelligence Agency, there's a multiple intelligence center, So once there is a multiplicity, turf wars start, there's subtle turf wars. And sometimes there is not a joint assessment, a joint collation and assessment of available intelligence. And
Yes,
that is where
coordination.
gaps in intelligence arises.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think the second problem is that, over the years, India had tended to neglect the Chinese threat. We were focusing too much on Pakistan. So it was all about, hitting Pakistan for terrorism. And the Chinese threat was thought as a long-term threat. So you can put it away on the shelf. So I think these are some of the larger factors which have occurred. And then, you had two major presidential summits between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping at Wuhan. And then again at Chennai in 2019, October. October we had a summit.
Before 6 months,
the political assessment in India did not reckon at all of a Chinese military intrusion. I think they just did not assess that there could be a Chinese military intrusion. So I think at the political level, there has also been an assessment gap of Chinese strategic intent.
Right. Both at the political level and also, I think, as you said correctly, maybe at intelligence level also, assessment failure, of course. They were concentrated too much. They were concentrated too much in Pakistan. Military level also, they were concentrating too much on Pakistan and other countries instead of China or the other. Now I think they're coming up, especially Nepal situation. I find they're up to the mark. Okay, I'll come back to you, Mr. Jit Singh. It's a very good point you brought out. Let me bring Mr. General Rashid this side. Sir, I think you can hear us, sir. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, because the internet connectivity at times is so many. It is going in so many channels.
Yes.
5 channel. I should, tell to our audience again that we are going live in Facebook, in YouTube, in Twitter, in LinkedIn, and also Security Bangladesh website. I was going to tell Gol Bangladesh because I am more oriented with that site. It is securitybangladesh.com. So, sir, the effect you are telling, you also told. But now I want to fall back to the reasons that Mr. Vikram Jit Singh brought some strategic points that the reasons of such incident, unexpected and sudden incident from China, this aggressive behavior, both at Lipulek, at Ladakh, and at also Arunachal. 3 points together. What else geopolitical issues you can think of?
Certainly, I don't agree with that. That yes, they have overlooked China totally and focused on the Pakistan. Because if you look back to 1971 war, so while India was mustering their divisions to get into our Bangladesh to have a blitzkrieg tactics and get the Dhaka as soon as possible, they have kept a sufficient division guarding the Chinese border. So automatically it was never neglected as such. But question is that it is an overconfidence that they say whether you go politically solving the problem or militarily. So they had also won, I think if I'm not wrong, in 1996 some sort of a agreement with China that they will not be using the guns while patrolling in the borders. So that actually may binded the hands of the generals or the commanders for which that Bihar regiment has gone to that point without guns, without any weapons. So automatically, we have to decide that how we are going to solve the problem, militarily or politically or diplomatically. So once you think that there is a military threat, so certainly that petrol point 14 on which that clash took place, it has a tactical advantage. In a mountainous area, China, in between China and India, there is a big wall of Himalayas. So it was not a very good, what is called tactical ground to fight a military war. So this is one thing. So it is not easy for someone is bringing mechanized divisions. It has no impact of bringing mechanized division. Better we should have a mountain division over there more effective, and foot infantries are the more effective because channelized movement. So I'm not going into the details of the tactics and all. This was basically a tactical movement. There is the intelligence which records the tactical movement, and there is the intelligence which records the strategic movements. So probably that tactical movement was so small in nature. It was a petrol, and you see, even in petrol point that is PP14, the total size of the Chinese army was not that big. Now, question: you just wipe them out with the application of your firepower and the force, or to talk to them, have a amicable solution? Like, please leave my country. So I think there is a kind of a political decision that if somebody enters into my territory or affects my border, should I apply firepower or should I go instantly with an amicable solution and begging them, please leave my area? So
So
this sort of
sir, can I add here, sir, because I also added some point to his discussion. See, here it comes the assessment failure of the political leaders, what we had been discussing, because they did not analyze that whether that should be a decision of tactical maneuver, as you were saying. So that was a part of failure, that they were not aware, or they were not ready to take decision in time. Sir, can you hear me? General Rashid, can you hear me, sir?
yeah, I can hear you.
So
You are trying to listen to me.
yeah, I asked you that.
I said the term failure is a very negative term. It is not.
Not failure, but could they add? Okay,
There are certain deficits. There is no doubt in it. The first thing, as a military leader, I feel if somebody politically ties my hand and gives me the order to do, maintain the sovereignty, so something like that concussion, that complication was there in the border belt. Whatever my understanding is there.
Yeah.
Now it is power is given to the military leaders. They can decide on ground tactically if anything happens. So automatically now question is that at this moment my petrol is going and somebody is saying no, you can't go. China has obstructed Indian petrol, and what they have done. Now question is that is a place where the decision problem. Am I going to make the decision militarily, or am I going to make a decision politically or amicably? So that's why that the petrol came back without any conflict. So certainly nobody's army will just sit tight if they are obstructed on their own territory by some foreign armies. So they have their application of power, firepower is there, everything is there. So now, if I get into that question of military advantage and all, certainly China has a lot of military disadvantage than the India itself. So automatically,
Why
it
is so, sir? You're telling?
I'm just telling the military disadvantage China has more. Geographical disadvantage, supply disadvantage, logistic problem, because they have a big Himalaya. They have to cross and come into foothill to fight in Ladakh. But India has a lot of sound logistical chain to support the war.
But
fighting
here,
four division, you can maintain 5, 6, 7 divisions in that area without any problem. But China cannot.
Here there is a point we saw in the map. They already constructed a national highway. It is called NH 219.
I have analyzed that they have a rail line to Lasha. Coming from that, there is a high railway line, and that cannot carry the loads. They have a reduced load capacity. So if you contact more than on that using rail line, as I understand, it is their information. They cannot run more than 10 trains per day. So that's a height problem. So their fighter aircraft cannot take up from that height of Tibet with a full load. So these are the problems. Now you see the heights, like you say the Daulat Beg Oldi, which is close to the Siachen Glacier. So Siachen Glacier is a contest, a land which is located between one side there is a western, a little bit of chunk China has taken from Pakistan, the Kashmir land, and there also you have your Aksai Chin, that is also occupied by China, the Kashmir land. So they cannot establish the link, logistical link with that part. And if the Siachen Glacier position or Dolabek Odli is not there, so automatically China and Pakistan can combine themselves together in the military movement or even whatever movement. So that is the important point, and that's why everybody focus that when the Dolabek Odli will be captured either by Pakistan or China. So Daulat Beg Oldi also threatens the entry point of the Karakoram Highway, which is a CPAC, which has been mentioned by the JIT. So once your Karakoram Highway, that is also threatened from that position, so automatically they will be scared of this position. And to tighten the position, India has established a nice base, and now they have a nice road which has been from Leh to straight to Daulat Beg Oldi, and which is contested by China. That road actually runs parallel to the LAC, line of actual control. So there is a many points China can interfere. So petrol point 14 is one of the heights which could interfere very effectively the road Daulat Beg to Daulat Beg Oldi. So automatically it is not possible for India to compromise that. So they would like to get themselves dislodged from that area. Now, in that tactical situation, so automatically I would say China is not, like 1962 position that they will have an overwhelming capture of Indian territory. No. Now China has a problem and he is trying to get a military advantage using Pakistani territory. So they are putting the airbase, bringing them to the Pakistani airbase and getting into this side, while you have a better advantage of geographical advantage. So total, it is not that you can very make an easy military victory. None of the country could do that. Right. So automatically, main question is who is going to fire the first shot? That's a problem. So we see a lot of tensions, lot of face-offs, but nobody is firing the first shot. So that gives them one indication that war is quite away.
Okay, I'll come back, sir. It's interesting points you brought in. I'll go to Mr. Jit Singh now. Before that, if you can see the map again that General Rahsid was discussing. This is the Jammu Kashmir here, Pakistan part, and here Indian part, and this is the central Nepal here, and this is the Aksai Chin that China claims, and here is Siachen. They call it maybe Xianjian, if I'm not wrong. Then let me read another here, another. Yeah. So I'm clear. So let me bring now Mr. Jit Singh here. Can you see the? Yeah, I can see you. So Mr. Vikram Jit Singh, as General Rahsid was telling, that China has more disadvantage. If we discuss it from a neutral point, now we can say India is better positioned. There is no doubt. Their air base, their everything, concentration of equipment, and logistic, everything is there. But from neutral point of view, I want to hear your opinion. Is China is in the advantage, and the impact of this stand-off situation between China and India in South Asia, not East Asia, as General Rahsid said. I want to hear your opinion also.
I think China also has certain military advantages as far as Eastern Ladakh is concerned, and that those advantages are primarily when they go on an offensive maneuver. The reason is because they have built a very detailed and a super what is called infrastructure in Aksai Chin. They can these snow levels in Aksai Chin are lower than what is on the Indian side, so they can easily move their motorized and mechanized divisions very quickly across the LAC. So I don't think it is such a one-sided military situation.
Are you talking about this road?
No, I'm talking about the overall.
This one?
The G219 situation. The road,
Okay.
the main road from Tibet to Xinjiang.
That is the NH. They call it NHS 219.
It's called
Yes.
G219, I think.
G1. Yeah.
NH219 or GH219, someone.
GS. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so they have Chinese have been doing military exercises since 2017 in the Tibetan Autonomous Region. They are doing high altitude exercises, and they can also surge very quickly across the LSE. They have got a lot of forces in the Tibetan Autonomous Region. There is one estimate that they've got about 2 lakh troops. I think the one factor which we have really not considered so far in the discussion is
Yeah.
the Chinese very high capabilities in cruise, ballistic, and super hypersonic missiles. Because India's air defense is not uh, as good as we would like it to be to counter a missile attack, and there are very, very big numbers of missiles under the PLA rocket force, which is called the PLAF. Then the PLA strategic support force, which has in new domains of warfare like anti-satellite, cyber, electromagnetic spectrum warfare. So these warfare domains are also very important warfare domains in the emerging warfare scenario. And I think now we come to the major geopolitical point of this discussion. You see, I think China is trying to twist India's arm to send a signal to India and China's neighbors that, if you want to look at security, you need to cater to China's viewpoint. Because India will not be able to do much. That is what the geopolitical signal China is trying to, send out. They did it in Bhutan also in Doklam in 2017 when they applied military pressure at the Doklam tri-junction between India, Pakistan, Bhutan, and China.
Bhutan. Yeah.
Now they're doing the same at Lippu Lake, which is a tri-junction point between Nepal, China, and India. And Nepal and India are in a dispute over Lippu Lake. It's been a pretty big, dispute at Lippu Lake. So I think Bangladesh also is now at the crossroads because China has put in a lot of foreign investment into Bangladesh. Xi Jinping came in 2016. He gave $24 billion worth of line of credits. India gave out $8 billion in all. Chinese arms have gone to the Bangladesh army, submarines, frigates, tanks. China is also developing the Chittagong port. So I think what Bangladesh and the other countries need to be careful about is that when they get caught in a very serious clash between two major powers, then they have to be very careful because each power will try and ask the smaller country to tilt to their side. You see, now, for example, India, when China and the US are clashing, India is also caught in a bit of a dilemma because if it goes too much towards the US, then China exerts more pressure on India.
Yeah.
So, the smaller countries have to do a very careful balancing act. As long as the tension between two major powers are not extreme, the smaller nation can benefit from both sides. But when the competition goes to the extreme spectrum of conflict, then a smaller nation gets caught. And now you can see India is also trying to woo Bangladesh very strongly. It's given 8 locomotive diesel engines. It has built up that transit facility from India, Bangladesh to Northeast India, through Bangladesh. So, India is putting pressure on Bangladesh that try and keep away from China. So Bangladesh has to now play a very careful.
But here, can I add a point, Mr. Jit, as you're telling? But Nepal has gone against the stream, as you say, taking the advantage of the situation. They called it at their own, like they have done something which is not expected, like occupying some lands, and then this point they're doing what they're doing. Maybe seeing
Nepal,
this China, yeah, go ahead.
Nepal is more of a question of internal domestic politics of Nepal, where the Prime Minister has taken advantage of certain geopolitical developments in the neighborhood of Nepal, India, China, to tilt against to some extent against India, raking up the old disputes and publishing new maps and issuing very aggressive statements. Some very offensive statements were issued against India about the birthplace of Lord Ram, and
Yeah.
which were not really in good taste. But I think
Yeah.
it has to do with internal politics of Nepal rather than Nepal. You see, now if you look at the foreign minister of Nepal, Mr. Gyanwali, he's made a very interesting statement 2 days back. He said Nepal should look at non-aligned movement, NAM again. So you see, Nepal is also aware that they can't tilt one side too openly because they'll get caught in a clash between two big tectonic plates of South Asia. You see, what is happening in Ladakh is two big tectonic plates, China and India, are clashing.
Yes.
And the tremors from that big clash of tectonic plates are being felt by all the neighboring nations. You see, even now Bhutan is getting caught in this conflict. China suddenly opened a new claim in eastern Bhutan over the Sakteng Wildlife Sanctuary.
Now, I understand. My point was, if you allow, let me add another point. Like India has, it is said, has opened up so many fronts. Like Pakistan is just sleeping and waiting and waiting. You have opened up front with Myanmar, with Bhutan, with Arunachal, in Siliguri, in Nepal, in Bangladesh. So many fronts, especially like Bangladesh also, as you say, Bangladesh is a place of interest. But then if you keep on avoiding, keep on denying their interest, business trade deficit, killing people by BSF, then a lot of other issues like this transit issue also, without paying any money, any real rent, that's getting the transit issue. So all these things, are getting discussed. So many fronts. How do India really tackle in? We understand that there is. Yeah, go ahead.
India has to be far more sensitive to the emerging geopolitical situations because the smaller nations are not willing to accept a smaller brother role. And I think India's domestic politics over the National NRC register, the Citizen Amendmentship Act, certain terms which would never have been used by our leadership, like, they use a very offensive term for migrants, which I don't want to repeat here. So that has led to a lot of disquiet in neighboring nations because we can't expect a special relationship that, Nepal should be our younger brother. They should listen to us only, or Bangladesh should listen to us. Because, nations are sovereign and they have alternative choices now. They have options.
Right.
So we must respect them as our equal brothers and equal partners in development. You look at China, they made a very clever statement yesterday. Chinese President Xi Jinping issued a statement saying that Nepal and China are equal partners. He knew that these things are important for smaller neighbors because they also suffer from insecurity. So I think India has to be far more sensitive to its neighboring nations, especially Bangladesh. We are very proud that we played a role in the liberation of Bangladesh, and look at where Bangladesh has now reached. It has such a high growth rate. It's done so well on education, on its exports, on health of the people, and the Prime Minister of Bangladesh has been a great friend of India for ever since we can imagine. So far more sensitivity to Bangladesh's concerns, its interests are required, because what will happen in Bangladesh is that if India's trajectory turns towards Hindutva politics or something, then the extremist forces in Bangladesh, the jihadi forces, the fundamentalists, they get an upper hand, and secular parties will find it difficult because they come under tremendous pressure from the jihadi lobby. And remember, Pakistan is always there to play mischief.
Right.
Pakistan is always there.
So I'll come back to you. Please stand by, because let me bring General Rashid. We are towards our show. So I'll come back to you again. Let me bring General Rashid here. General Rashid, sir, I think you can hear me, though you have some noise in your audio. Sir, for you, I have a interesting question. Right? Bangladesh has got tax rebate. Rather, China has allowed Bangladesh to export 97 items, something like that. And then they have given a proposal to build the biggest bridge, Borishal, Bula, something like that. And again, they have been helping us in Corona. A lot of I mean, a lot of business interest they are showing now in this time during a standoff within between these two countries. So our experience shows that they did the same thing with Sri Lanka and other country on the name of business interest investment. They have invested there, but that was very tricky. Now in trap of China, Sri Lanka is in trap of China. So what is your assessment that Bangladesh should they fall in the business interest of hand of China or should strike a balance? Where do you go?
First thing I would say that all these commitments are loan, line of credit. Nothing is donation. Now, if I take a money from China or India, I have to pay back. Now, question is that someone can offer. China's technique is offering a big money and putting the country into the trap. That's popularly known as worldwide debt trap, which the Sri Lanka has suffered. Bangladesh is quite cautious whether they make a development or not. That is within the capacity. It is not that you keep giving me money and I take those loans. So it is not a money giving. It is a loan that you are giving. You are also having your own interest on that. So that is the problem. Bangladesh should be cautious of taking a big money and thinking that they should have their capacity to pay it back. Otherwise, you will suffer politically. Now I come on to a question that certainly Jit has very nicely said that how to handle your neighboring nation. So automatically there is a Pakistani narrative too, by through which China manipulates Bangladesh as well. So automatically the jihadis are there. So whether you create the issues for the secular government or not to survive, so that is one of the things. Now, as I see in Indian, a group of media people, often they say, try to put the Bangladesh away from India by putting on unnecessary news. So Bangladesh is leading towards China. And then I know that when Bangladesh is in trouble with Rohingya problem, do I get the support of China or the India? How close it was. So automatically, a nation feels in Bangladesh, what are the issues the people feel the pinch that India should do. Now, as you have already made some points like border killing is a public issue. It is not a political issue. Like water tista is a public issue. So these are, to my concern, it is a tolerable option. It is not very tricky option to solve. That Bangladesh, India has done the best option that they have solved. One is that delimiting the maritime boundary and the land boundary agreement. So that was the most critical part, which they have crossed over. Now we get stuck up with all these things and see which gives an upper hand of the jihadists to take the Pakistani narrative and operate, make the nation as a whole. So it must be very balanced approach. The friendship is in a balanced approach. How to stand by the friend when he is in trouble. So we do indebted to the nation of India as a whole because they have supported our liberation war. So, they have given a blood to our liberation, our cause. So that we will never forget the nation. For my freedom, there is an Indian blood. So I cannot forget that Indian blood for my freedom. So question is that automatically the people, what's the thing? Now in Nepal, what happens? Once India has closed the border, Nepal, everything is in Nepal. The commodity price has gone, soared up so much that it's gone beyond the capacity of the common people. Now, punishing common people, would you like to extend the friendship or would like to, it is an internal problem politically. But India has offered many things to Nepal, open borders. They are free to find their jobs in India, many things. Now, by closing the border, suddenly what happens? The common people are suffering. Whether this strategy, punishing the common people, you would like to win over the government. What? I don't know. I'm not agreeing in this point. First thing I have to look at that there is also in Indian media, a group of the Indian media people are very much, happy with one Pakistani narrative. That is, that India has supported the present government, Sheikh Hasina, they Pakistan or others consider is undemocratic. So that's why Indian popularity in Bangladesh has gone down. It's a Pakistani narrative. It's not actual narrative. Now, if they would like to get this Sheikh Hasina out and get a radical government in, and that will be very good for India, I'm sure, in the South Asia North. So, but they are playing with that narrative. I've seen many media players who have been played with this narrative. And number of times they said these are the causes of the popularity of India gone down in Bangladesh. But I don't agree with this narrative. I know this is a Pakistani creative narrative, and Pakistani I'm not going into that details. They have also invested in the Indian media to exploit this narrative. So
No,
automatically,
sir, here I like to add. I go with you that about that Prime Minister, I mean, present ruling government. But what's about this water issue where thousands of people are affected? You said it public issue, and then mass killing of BSF. Every day almost people are killed. So
that's
that
I'm
is also
telling
affecting
that
people, general
India,
mass.
India must not create an issue which will cause trouble to the secular government to survive or face the people. So automatically, today I said that border killing issues, and the Tista water issues is not very complicated
Right.
to solve, because we have said that most complicated issues were the maritime boundary and the land boundary agreement, which we have solved very nicely, amicably, without dislocation of the people. If that bigger problem both the country have solved, so automatically the minor issues like CA, the way it has been presented, automatically it whether it is a big or small doesn't matter, but it had an impact on Bangladesh. So it had also impact in Bangladesh secular government to handle the issue. So automatically India must realize what Jit said very rightly. So you must say that what Indian policy towards neighbors should be conducive to the development of the secular
Small.
forces, non-communal forces, all these things, so that we can have a very integrated South Asia. You see, in South Asia, you see the SARC has gone down, and ultimately, the India had a very much rather had a very nice association with the most of the SARC member. One, we see that summit to the Pakistan was declined by most of the members. Now we see we have also seen another place where the Modi had a SARC digital conference where most of the countries supported on the issue. So Pakistan said that to create a fund, so they were not even represented by their head of the government.
I'll
So,
come back, sir.
so that is the issue that we have to solve it very amicably and must keep the people in the hand. So annoying people, punishing people, a policy, I think that has to be very thought of. It is not to get rid of a government that you punish people. So that has to be very deeply thought.
Yeah, sir. Yes, we go with your point, sir. Thank you very much for the point. Mr. Jit, if you can hear me, I like to bring a similar point that we had been discussing. And you also said here some internal issue like NRC and all, like Hindu, some extremism in Hindu, the political party now in power in India. I mean, in common general mass in Bangladesh, if you talk about a feeling of general mass, has a feeling that, as you said, that is a issue. NRC, and then the political issues within the India, like the difference between West Bengal and center. That is just a point for solving the local problems, issues like water issues. So, what do you think of your local issues and this standoff? How again is affecting Bangladesh? Because China is always standing with one hand to deliver a lot of proposal, lot of attractive, donations, loans, whatnot, and then they're doing almost major construction of Bangladesh are now being done by Chinese contractor. Like if you see even the airport of Sylhet is being constructed by China. Padda Bridge is China major, it's the biggest construction of Bangladesh, including like this. Lot of major construction projects are being done by China. So considering all these points, your internal issues and other issues, how it is affecting Bangladesh?
You see, if we have too much of Hindutva and a targeting of the migrants from Bangladesh who are residing in India for many years, and some very unfortunate incidents of some of them have been lynched, and it's been very terrible to see that kind of a thing happening in a country like India. Now, what happens is that the secular forces in Bangladesh then are pushed on the defensive. Because it's very difficult to justify such a campaign in India, because nobody expects India to. I remember Prime Minister of Bangladesh Sheikh Hasina issued a statement that the I think the NRC was not necessary; it was unnecessary. She issued a statement. It's on record, and so now Bangladesh is also facing a lot of pressure because of the Rohingyas coming in from Myanmar, and China has a role to play in Myanmar. They can influence the flow in Myanmar. So China has been offering Bangladesh that we'll ease the pressure of Rohingyas on Bangladesh. And if China wants to play a negative game, it can again create a conflict with Pakistan, and more Rohingyas will flow towards Bangladesh, and that can become a very difficult problem for Bangladesh. And then if India has the NRC and the CAA and the campaign against the migrants from Bangladesh, then they can be a reverse flow of migrants from India to Bangladesh. And how much can Bangladesh take the pressure? So I think India should be very sensitive to the concerns of Bangladesh, and there's a political fight going on between the West Bengal government and the BJP government, and which is again affecting the settlement of the Teesta water flow to Bangladesh. Also, I think the West Bengal government was refusing to was playing a difficult game in allowing transit of goods from West Bengal to Bangladesh and onward to the northeast. So I think the emerging geopolitical scenario is that China is trying to encircle India by winning over its neighbors, and they are using a lot of heavy funding. They are interfering in domestic politics in our neighbors, India's neighbors, and they're trying to build up narratives which go against India. Yeah. So India has to be very wary of this, geopolitical encirclement. And Bangladesh is our old ally, and we are proud of Bangladesh's progress and success in the world order. In the global comity of nations, everybody looks at Bangladesh as a huge success story. Look at the nation born in 1971 and what problems it faced: the genocide, the dislocations, the conflict, and the turmoil, and they've risen from it, and they have built a nation which is actually doing so much for its common people. So India needs to be a good partner to Bangladesh. I think that's very important.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back. So for the last time, I'll go to General Rashid. Before that, I was getting some message, some audience remark, though I am not going to read all those. But I want to let my audience know this was a pre-scheduled discussion. It is a very sensitive issue. We understand. We know that Indo-China clash, where do we stand? Yeah, it is very sensitive. But then for information here, something serious, something more unfortunate incident going on in Bangladesh, involving some members, the killing of some retired army officers, as we discussed. But that was not issue of or subject of discussion of this show. So this was pre-scheduled and pre-subject. We contacted much early. So nothing to be here with that one. I must personally condemn that. But then we will finish our discussion on the issue that we have decided today, not other issues. Thank you very much, audience. I think you will bear it with us. General Rashid sir, as I was saying that, lastly, if you can tell us something what then Bangladesh should do. And Bangladesh is, as I said, China is trying to show a big help, trying to become big brother, and trying to develop, as you say, narrative, Pakistani narrative, all this. So what should be our standpoints then? You covered a few, but if you can say a little more, that what should we do for this standoff between the two big power like China and India?
Very rightly you said. First thing I would like to say, as a geostrategic point of view, India is our neighbor and is the largest neighbor and having the longest boundary with us. So automatically, in the South Asia, we have to have a very good relation between these two nations to grow up together. So that is one point. Second thing on China issue, China is somewhat getting isolated and he's flexing his muscle everywhere. So muscle flexing towards Indonesia, Vietnam, and certainly his conduct and attitude towards a small neighbor was very not acceptable to me. So this is one. So now I said that from the Galwan Valley, the conflict, the world, I see a new polarization, new grouping. So world is divided. Now I, as a small country member, I have to choose which side I go. So automatically, as we see many people say that US is a declining power and India joining US is also getting part of money, pinch of it. China is the emerging power. So I don't necessarily agree with that because China's economic power, the way he wants to deliver from BRI and the other African nation as well. So, everybody is feeling threatened. Like Russia is also not feeling very comfortable with China, and they have demanded their Vladivostok port as their own territory. So automatically, the Central Asia, he has a big concern on Central Asia. So automatically, now in this divided world, I have my interest. What happened? My total economy is based on my garment export, and China is not the buyer of my garment export. It is the Western countries who gives me this much of money. I have a surplus of business. With China, I have a deficit, of trade. But we buy 9 billion. I do not know how much we send. So it's not calculating. To create a balance, I have to see my interest, my economy. And as first is a neighbor, we must have a very cool and very cooperative situations amongst the neighbor. Bangladesh as a whole, with that relation, neighbors relation, Bangladesh put a lot of importance. I have seen that having so much trouble with Myanmar Rohingya, Prime Minister said that I would like to have a peaceful solution, not with a military solution. So Bangladesh probably looking for a very good neighborhood and on which and also historical balance. Historically, India supported our cause of liberation and my freedom, and China at that time objected and lined up with Pakistan. I am not very sure whether leaving aside is by looking at Bangladesh, China, Pakistan is not very happy because instead we have grown up much faster than their country. So automatically, I cannot take their policies towards us to be very friendly. As I have seen their policy, somewhat they would like to block the Bangladesh to block their development and putting into trouble. So as a whole, in this situation, we have to maintain a neighborhood relation. We have to solve amicably, and we have to also request the neighbors, don't create a problem for our secular forces to survive and to have a peaceful South Asia. So one must keep that in mind.
Sir, if I can come to Mr. Vikram Jit Singh from India, let me bring him in the screen, his name, because for the last time, if you say something, Mr. Vikram Jit Singh, about the left out point, if you have any point on the discussion.
I think your questions have explored most of the important issues that have been flagged with respect to the South Asia and Bangladesh at the crossroads of India-China tensions. So I think I hope that Bangladesh people and the government has the wisdom to balance their relations and move ahead on a path which is best suited to the interests of the people of Bangladesh. And as far as India and China are concerned, I think we are heading towards a fundamental reset of India-China relations after the Ladakh tensions. Because, the agreements to maintain tranquility on the line of actual control in Ladakh have broken down. So India-China relations will probably never be the same again after this Ladakh tensions. So I think South Asia is also going to move towards a new equilibrium because anything between India and China is going to impact South Asia.
Okay, thank you. General Rashid, if you have anything to say for the last time, sir.
I said that we would like to have a peace, not a war. You see that if it leads to the nuclear war, automatically everybody will be affected. So we would like to have a very cooperative environment, and we also don't like the China's muscle flexing in geopolitics. So I'm sure he has to make a compromise and brought back and accept the international norms, and thereby give everybody's share and respect the sovereignty of the each country. So in that situation, I don't think China will go up to that point, because their political power is in trouble. Xi Jinping leadership is challenged by the China itself. So to survive, he may have some erratic decision. That is the problem, I think.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time. It was an wonderful experience, wonderful discussion for our audience. I have seen a lot of remarks, a lot of comments. So thank you very much for your valuable times, both of you. Mr. Vikram Jit Singh, because your name is pretty difficult for pronouncing for me. I can remember Jit Singh part of it. Mr. Jit Singh, thank you very much for your time. I'm honored.
It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to share a wonderful and very detailed and analytical interaction with your good self and General Rashid, and my best wishes for peace in South Asia.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, best wish. Okay, we are getting out.
Inshallah, let's meet together in future, sir, again. Thank you. With that, what I end here, sir.